my vantage point is that my work gives me the opportunity to meet a very large number of people who are planning their second careers. And one of the things many people want to do in their second careers is to be some form of helper, be a mentor, be a coach, be a teacher, be an advisor, and so on. And that's the context in which I have long conversations with a large number of people. So that's the vantage point from which I'm coming. So firstly, I find that people, as they think of their second career, think of a combination of three things, of course, in varying proportions. One is very important, is being is very important for people at that stage. And being is about discovering oneself, having fun, enjoying, spending time with grandchildren, traveling, pursuing spirituality, doing a PhD, and doing many things that one didn't do. Transcending the mundane stuff is a very important part of people's lives. That's whether it's 1/3, 2/3, half is a matter of personal choice, but that's there. Second is everyone wants to contribute and make a difference, to be relevant, to be meaningful, in an economically sensible way too. I think contributing is the second part. Again, what percentage varies. The third, which is the one which varies dramatically, is that some people are very keen to learn. Some people think it's a nice thing to learn. Some, the very, very thoughtful ones, know it is absolutely important to learn. So we all believe that as I'm 50 plus, I mean, what is the marginal returns I get from learning? But actually, it's the opposite. Why learning is so important, I'll talk about it. So being, contributing, learning are the three things that people do. The second thing I want to say is that it is useful for people at this stage to look at what they want to contribute in two ways. One is the verticals and the other is the horizontal. The vertical is in terms of what kind of problems do I have deep expertise to solve? Am I a salesperson? Am I a business person? Am I a tech industry person? Am I a manufacturing person? Where am I relevant? And I might be relevant in 2-3 different areas, some domains, some functions. People tend to discount it, but actually going back to the roots is where a lot of people, some vertical expertise is important to hang ourselves to. The horizontal is the interesting stuff that people like us in CFI do. What are the ways in which, how are you going to make a difference? And people are no longer going to make a difference by being a manager, by a CEO, being a managing director or whatever. That's over. So we are going to make difference by being a consultant, by being an advisor, by being a mentor, by being a teacher, by being a coach, by being an angel investor. And so the horizontals are many ways in which people are now saying, what are the new ways in which I will ensure that my knowledge and expertise is made available to people? Very different from the way I did it in my first 50 plus years. That's one. The other thing I realize quite often is that last calling card has a validity of maybe 1 or 2 years. For the 1 or 2 years, I can say I was CEO of this company, I was managing director, so on and so forth. After that, it just loses its value because so much has changed and keeps changing. But what remains valid is the accumulated expertise that I have to solve problems which are still important problems in the world today. And that is an important shift people need to make in their minds, to say it's not my calling card, but the expertise I have, which I've honed and which is still relevant. I think that's the second framework I want to place in front of you to provoke thinking. The third thing is that many times during my days when I decided to become an entrepreneur, which was very young at the age of 39, people said, oh, you're on your own. And on your own sounds very lonely, and it is actually lonely. But today you have the choice to be on your own and lonely, or you have the choice to be on a platform, because platforms are the new capitalists, actually. I'm calling a Neeraj a capitalist now, right? Social capitalist perhaps, but platform is the new place where people hang out. And I think it's great to belong to a community, and CFI is doing what it is able to do because people love to belong to that community. So that's an important choice to make. Do I want to be all by myself? Do I want to belong to a community? Last thing I want to talk about is some of the derailers which make our life at this stage somewhat unpleasant. The first is, if I'm still carrying baggage from my past, it can be very painful, it can be hurting, it can drag our energy down. We may have had a bad boss, a bad employer, bad last experience, a bad promoter, colleagues. How are we going to deal with that? If we are not able to deal with that, we are not able to achieve closure. If we can't work with someone to actually do that, it can linger for a very, very long part of our lives. I've seen people in their 70s and 75s still talk about stuff that happened when they were 40 or 50, and that's troubling them. It's pretty painful, actually. So one is to get some help to deal with past baggage. The second is, many do not realize that they're actually changing. They are no longer the person they were when they were 40 or 45. Someone said, look, I became very emotional. I was never an emotional person. I said, yeah, you've changed now. Emotions are becoming important in your life. Yeah, you were not emotional, but now you are emotional. Someone said, I was very decisive. I'm no longer so decisive. Yeah, not being very decisive is changing, and you're changing. Therefore, to be able to recognize that we are changing, I think is very important. The other thing is that people do become quite touchy about things that were not so touchy in the past. We become touchy with our spouses, with our kids, with our neighbors, with our friends, with everybody, and that can be a derailer. Sometimes people become not so easy to do business with, and that can become a problem. Just not easy to do business with. You are competent, but not easy to do business with. Then we have fixed ideas about the world, about youngsters, about new organizations, about startups, about everything, and that can actually make us sound cynical. And finally, how much are we able to unlearn our old ways of doing things, and relearning can actually be a derailer or enabler. So those are really by way of a framework which can provoke some thinking, and I want to stop there, Neeraj.